Now available from National Geographic Home Video.
Life, birth, struggle, death. In the wild, where at any moment a predator can suddenly become prey, only one law prevails: the law of survival. For the past 30 years, National Geographic filmmakers have captured nature's beauty and brutality, from the ocean's depths to the top of the world, uncovering and exploring the fascinating story of life on Earth. Join us now as we celebrate our world and all that is in it in 30 years of National Geographic specials.
In Africa's Serengeti, death never sleeps, and from dawn to dusk, the resourceful vulture is alert, ever ready for a chance to feed. Notorious scavengers, vultures fill the sky with their giant wings, circling high above as predators make a brutal kill. Often the last to eat, they devour flesh and pick bones clean, leaving nothing to waste. Soar with these living symbols of death, barb-tongued birds who rarely miss a kill, in National Geographic's Wings Over the Serengeti.
And now, our feature presentation.
Rain. It pulses through the heart of Africa, the lifeblood of the forest. The ultimate source of this water is far away. We retrace a river's flow, climbing ever upwards to reach the snow-covered pinnacles of the highest mountain range in Africa. Storms brew on these jagged peaks and spill their liquid wealth. Some is captured by Great Lakes, inland seas of magic and mystery. Some works its way down into the Zaire River Basin, the Congo. Here it feeds the greatest expression of life on this continent, the Central African rainforest. This is Africa's fabled heart of darkness. But it's not so much a savage wilderness as an enchanted wood. Winsome or regal, a wealth of rare creatures inhabit this charmed realm. The lord of this kingdom is the elephant. But all who dwell here, from giant to dwarf, help weave the spell of the forest primeval. This is the vine-tangled African forest of our imaginings. Its dim depths are in stark contrast to the sunlit plains of East Africa. But only the Great Rift sets them apart. The Great Rift cleaves the heart of Africa. Tectonic plates far below are splitting the continent, stretching and tearing the earth above. The upheaval raises mountains which block the winds and catch the rain. Rain fills the Great Rift Lakes and waters the huge swath of rainforest that stretches from the highlands of the rift. It is one of the last great wildernesses in the world, powered by the sun and the great storms that sweep over the trees. 'The Were it not for the Great Rift and the clouds that breed upon its highlands, these elephants might be marching across a barren desert instead of through a clearing in a steamy jungle. Forest elephants, a smaller subspecies than those on the savanna, have tusks that are slimmer, straighter, and more downward pointing. Like elephants everywhere, they dominate life around them. They seem to greet the life-giving rains with celebration. But as always, life springs out of death. In every storm, there will be some ancient giant struck down. Lightning has struck a forest giant, one of the mighty trees that support life here. When a great one dies, it starts the cycle of life anew. A landscape that has languished in continual shade for decades is suddenly exposed to the sun. Within weeks, vines are creeping up the stump. The rich ash at the base supports flourishing growth. Even on the blackened trunk, mosses and ferns gain a foothold. A hole has been torn in the canopy, letting light in to chase the shadows. Lush, soft plants, creepers, and young trees race to fill in the gap. But that race is slowed. By elephants. Elephants are the lords and architects of this forest, and are very fond of tender new growth. They regularly visit light gaps to eat the young trees, keeping the clearings open. They're gardeners too. Their dung fertilizes the soil and contains the seeds of plants that will feed other animals. Their concentrated trampling and feeding damages yet more trees, which die in time, and so the clearing grows. Forest elephants usually occur in small groups. But because of their size and mobility, their impact is profound and widespread. By letting in the light and spurring new growth, elephants help turn this forest into a charmed wood, inhabited by all kinds of strange creatures. One of the strangest is the okapi. The okapi was unknown to Western science until this century. It is a gentle creature, like its close relative, the giraffe. But its stripes are more reminiscent of a zebra's. They help it to disappear into the foliage like a creature in a dream. Like its taller relatives on the savanna, the okapi must spread its forelegs to get a drink. It feeds entirely on leaves. The new growth in tree fall gaps is vital to its survival. Its long neck and tongue give the okapi a reach of some 8 feet, less than half that of an elephant. But its influence extends beyond its reach. If it simply tore leaves off, within a couple of years the trees would carry them up and out of reach. But by breaking the young trees down, the okapi ensures a steady supply of new growth for itself and others. These pencil-thin legs belong to one of the smallest antelopes in Africa, the pygmy antelope. This dainty creature is also dependent on new growth, plants which are soft and palatable, and which this cat-sized animal can reach. Most of the rainforest riches are well out of reach, up there in the canopy, where only birds and monkeys can get at them. In the shadowland beneath, little grows in the poor and sandy soils, but the forest floor does receive a constant rain of leaves, twigs, and fruit. The nutrients in this air-mailed mulch are quickly recycled by countless fungi and microorganisms. The most visible recyclers are termites. The fanciful umbrella design shared by many termite nests and fungi has a practical function. It sheds the frequent rain. The termites can keep out the rain, but no kind of nest design will keep out one peculiar predator who specializes in eating them, the pangolin. Or in this case, two pangolins, the mother curled around her single baby. As evening falls and the air cools, the night shift begins to stir. The palm civet is still half asleep. The little pangolin awakes and stretches its termite catcher. A red-chested owlet, just 6 inches high, comes awake. For the first few months of life, the baby pangolin rides on its mom's tail. With that sensitive, ever-snuffling nose and those powerful claws, she is well equipped to find termite nests and rip them open. If the baby wants to explore, there is nothing Mom can do to stop him from getting off. He already climbs well, though he has yet to conquer the use of that ponderous tail. The pangolin's prehensile tail is used as a fifth limb. It even has a finger-like sensory pad at the tip. Eventually, the baby climbs back to its mother, using the scales on the underside of its tail to dig into the vine and help take its weight. It's just before dark. The palm civet is now wide awake and hungry. In search of breakfast, it sets off into the world of the canopy. It's a superb climber and has well-worn highways among the network of lianas, the woody vines that lace the treetops. A weaver bird has built its nest in what should be a safe place, but the palm civet is a master aerialist. Its wide feet have rubbery pads that can fold around thin vines and branches, giving it a tight grip. But the nest is empty. Perhaps breakfast could be honey. The sweet smell escapes from the elaborate wax entrance. The tiny sweat bees have no sting, but they get into eyes and up noses. A faint taste of honey is just not worth it. Fruit, the palm civet's staple food, would be just as sweet. There is no sunset in the forest. The green aquarium light gradually fades, as if on some giant dimmer switch, and the night shift prepares to take over. This is a genet, a cat-like creature which is half tail and all hunter. Long and lithe, it uses its elegant tail for balance as it stalks the hidden byways of the night. A young mother has brought her kittens out of their hiding place to play on the forest floor. Genets are really more at home in the trees. It's hard to believe these kittens will grow to be efficient hunters of mice, snakes, and birds. For now, they stalk their mother's tail as she leads them through the moonlit forest. Out of the spellbound night comes one of the most mysterious creatures on earth, the fishing genet. To science, it is known mostly from a handful of skins and skulls in museum storerooms. Rare and shy, it creeps silently through its darkling world. It fishes in the small streams that braid the forest floor. For an animal that fishes for a living, it's not particularly specialized as a swimmer. It doesn't even like to get wet. But it has evolved some extraordinary behavior to help land its catch. Fly fishermen call this dapping. It then feels the water's surface with its long whiskers. If it detects vibrations made by a curious or frightened fish, it will take the plunge. If it doesn't get good vibes, it moves on and stays dry. A mystery for the 50 years since it was first described. The fishing genet has finally given up some of its secrets. If the creatures of the forest floor seem bizarre, those in the canopy above are positively unearthly. The pygmy bush baby is a sprite of the treetops. It bounces from branch to branch, following its nose to sweet snacks of flowers and fruit. But its main food is insects, whose minute scufflings it picks up with those radar dish ears. Some scufflings are not so minute. This is a Goliath beetle. When Africa's smallest primate meets the continent's biggest insect, dinner plans are cancelled. The beetle is twice its weight, but fortunately not nearly as limber. There are plenty of less intimidating insects to eat. The owlet has caught a hawk moth, and the bush baby a praying mantis. The hawk moth is protected by a dense layer of fluffy scales that fly off in choking clouds. But it doesn't seem to deter the owlet. Sprinkled with nature's own moon dust, the forest night is still young. A roosting gray-throated rail feels a vibration in its perch. It is polite, but insistent. Well protected by its armor of horny overlapping scales, the pangolin appears to bumble through the forest like an absent-minded artichoke. But to tree-nesting termites, it is deadly. Clinging to the nest with its prehensile tail, the pangolin damages it, bringing out armies of termites. These it sweeps up with its sticky tongue, along with lots of grit which helps to grind them up in its stomach. A potto, a rabbit-sized primate, climbs in search of resins which ooze from certain trees. Pangolins sometimes hollow out a termite nest and spend the day sleeping curled up inside of it, but this one goes back the way it came. This time, the rail won't go back to bed. It's almost dawn. A baby potto left in hiding while its mother foraged is ready to be picked up. It will keep this creamy white fur until it is about 6 months old. For all these creatures of the forest, the sense of smell is paramount. Pottos, okapi, pangolins, genets, and bush babies all leave scented calling cards of some sort, usually a squirt of urine along their trail. It's a constantly updated olfactory bulletin board of everyone's status and whereabouts. For one animal, odors seem not only to supply information, but to excite a sensual frenzy. The African civet has found where the fishing genet was feeding. Just the faintest of aromas, undetectable to humans, triggers an orgy of scent marking, as it rubs its facial and throat glands on the magic spot. This pangolin has fed well, and now sleeps in the hollowed core of the termite nest. This one, perhaps disturbed by a predator in the night, has left his feeding late. He has broken the nest open, and the sound of the nest material pattering on the leaf litter attracts some plumed guinea fowl. The termite bonanza also brings in some black guinea fowl. There are several members of the pheasant family in this forest, and one of them is Africa's rarest bird. In 1913, the great American ornithologist James Chapin saw a strange feather in a pygmy's headdress. As he never matched it to any bird he collected in the Congo, he held on to it. 23 years later, he saw, covered in dust on the top of a cupboard in a Belgian museum, a bird that jolted his memory. It had been put aside, believed to be just a peahen, the female of the domestic peacock. Chapin knew better. After nearly a quarter of a century, he still had his feather. He sent for it, and it confirmed that this was indeed a new and unknown species. He immediately organized another expedition to the Belgian Congo, and in 1937 he collected what is still the most exciting new bird to be described this century, the Congo peacock. The male is certainly not as magnificent as its Indian relative, but what the Congo peacock lacks in splendor, it makes up in mystery. It has only been seen by a handful of naturalists, and until now hasn't been observed for over a decade. The holy grail of bird watchers, the Congo peacock disappears back into the dark heart of the forest primeval. Though some animals thrive in the deepest old growth, many others depend upon the clearings kept open, and even actively enlarged by elephants. They often expand open spaces where they gather together to drink, or to feed on mineral deposits. This family has come to suck up rare salts that occur some 6 feet below the surface. To get at them through the overlying gravel, this matriarch sticks her trunk in as deep as she can and simply blows bubbles. She must repeat this several times to get down to the mineral-bearing layer. Her youngsters wait patiently. Either their trunks are too short, or they haven't learned the bubble trick yet. To get their minerals, they must ambush Mum. The elephant's fondness for mud baths also helps to enlarge the clearing. Every elephant that wallows here will carry away many buckets of earth plastered to its hide. Hundreds of elephants over thousands of years. It all adds up. Young elephants particularly enjoy these gatherings of the clan. Here they meet new playmates and begin the decades-long process of testing themselves against their peers. The grass and herbs that thrive only in these sunlit spaces attract other forest dwellers, including the bongo, Africa's most beautiful and elusive antelope. And the forest buffalo, which must have grass to survive. These animals also prefer to drink in these open glades, where a leopard would have a hard time stalking them. But as a trade-off for the security, they must sometimes put up with a little hassling by the local teenagers. But when push comes to shove, the young elephant backs down. The buffalo can now enjoy a well-earned wallow. African gray parrots, highly social and perhaps the most intelligent of all birds, also gather here. They feed on the seeds of grasses, which are also grazed by the sitatunga, a smaller relative of the bongo. Besides providing a heavy-duty pruning and clearing service, elephants are essential to the replanting process as well. There are many forest plants whose seeds will germinate only after they have passed through an elephant's gut. Spiritually, these giant gardeners imbue the forest with a magic all their own. Physically, they create a mosaic of ever-changing habitats that help support an incredible diversity of fellow creatures. This includes an elusive tribe of forest antelopes, the duikers. The white-bellied duiker specializes in following troops of monkeys for the fruit that they drop, while the tiny blue duiker can manage unbelievably large fruits. and the powerful jaws of the bay duiker break all but the very hardest of seas. By juggling their slightly different talents and requirements, 6 species of duiker are able to coexist here. One thing they all have in common are these restless tails. It's a way of signaling to each other in the dim light of the forest, but it's also a sure way to attract the attention of their 2 main predators. With a wingspan of 6 feet, the crowned eagle is the largest bird of prey in the rainforest. It feeds almost entirely on monkeys and duikers. Duikers are also a favorite food of the leopard, but it will kill anything from okapi and buffalo to mice. Whether it comes from claws or talons, an attack from either one of these predators is deadly. But one small animal is unconcerned. This tail could signal a good meal, but it comes complete with lethal toothpicks. The brush-tailed porcupine is safe in the knowledge that any attacker is likely to target this tantalizing tail and end up with a face full of quills. This heads I win, tails you lose strategy has been adopted by a wide range of forest creatures. This forest blue butterfly attracts attention to its rear end by disguising it as an oversized head, complete with an eye spot and waving antennae. But any bird grabbing this false head gets only a beakful of dispensable wing. It's a trick, of course, that only works once. The so-called 2-headed snake has an ordinary head at the front end and an extraordinary head at the tail end. While the false head keeps guard on top of the coils, the real head sneaks away. The head has no distinguishing features, whereas the tail has the coloring and shape of a typical snake's head. Again, any attack is likely to come at the more conspicuous end. So, like the butterfly, the snake may get damaged, but is likely to survive. To complete its disguise, the tail actually mimics the defensive strikes made by the head of a retreating snake. Other snakes attract attention to their heads. The rhinoceros viper has a lethal venom, so perhaps this arrow marks the end not to mess around with. But this red-lined snake is harmless, as is this colored snake. Why they would want to draw attention to their most vulnerable ends is a mystery. The vine snake, though, has good cause to wave its day-glow tongue. Its body is superbly camouflaged. It literally disappears among the branches. Its near invisibility helps it stalk its prey, as well as protecting itself from attack. But should it be discovered, it does have a second line of defense. That tongue warns that it's armed with a deadly venom. Oblivious to the dramas taking place in the canopy above, the civet, sniffing every inch of the way, closes in on an interesting smell. This soccer ball-sized fruit has started to ferment, and the faint aroma switches him straight into squirming mode. The antics of the civet set off a twitching in the litter. It's getting up time for the giant elephant shrew. These 6-inch-high insect eaters spend the day searching the leaf litter with that highly mobile nose. They have 1 or 2 young, and after about 3 weeks they leave the nest, which is little more than a low mound of leaves. They never seem to quite grow into those coltish hind legs. But they do get better at finding a teat. To make her nest, the female first efficiently clears the site. Efficiently clears the site. Then she scoops out a hollow, which she lines with trampled leaves to give a firm floor. Finally, it's roofed over with a heap of dry leaves. It takes a couple of hours to make, and every few days she moves and starts again. The baby watches its mother, but perhaps it shouldn't follow her example exactly. The giant elephant shrew is a charming piece of evolution, but it's not really a shrew at all. It belongs in its own unique family, as does the giant otter shrew. The giant otter shrew has the long whiskers and pinhead eyes of a classic shrew, but its sleek, elegant body, tapering to a long, flattened tail, is all otter. But it's neither otter nor shrew. It's an insectivore. But what it really likes to eat are crabs. Like the fishing genet, the otter shrew has evolved to exploit the plentiful waterways that flow through the rainforest. Some 2 feet long, it's an excellent swimmer. Sinuous thrusts of its powerful tail give it startling speed and great agility underwater. Its small, soft hands are strangely unadapted for swimming, but are used for some rather inefficient steering. It uses its sensitive whiskers to help locate crabs in the shallows. Killing with a swift bite, it devours the crab in seconds. It will eat 20 or more in a night. It takes a lot of food to keep its rapid metabolism up and running at full speed. The The streams that crisscross the forest floor not only provide its creatures with food and drink, they're also a source of security. Following its nose, as always, the civet makes an exciting discovery. The civet won't hurt him, but when it feels threatened, the pangolin produces a potent odor. What more could a civet want? He goes straight into olfactory overload and treats the pangolin as he would any of the other great smells he finds in the forest, with a round of passionate scent marking. Luckily, despite its strange shape and the weight of its armor, the pangolin swims quite well. In the stream-riddled and eternally damp rainforest, all sorts of strange creatures take to the water in their own defense. One of these is the water chevrotain, which spends the day hiding in hollow logs or holes. An ancient species related to both antelopes and pigs, the water chevrotain has been feeding on flowers, fruit, and fungi here for over 20 million years. All that time, predator and prey have been evolving together, honing skills and strategies that make them well matched in the game of survival. A crowned eagle has the chevrotain in its sights. The eagle knows her tricks. If he spots her, he will plunge into the water after her. Under sharp-eyed surveillance, the chevrotain submerges again. She is completely at home here. She doesn't swim, but simply walks on the bottom, just like a little hippo. Her huge eyes are open wide, but she sees rather poorly, probably much as a human does underwater. Keeping her belly close to the ground to avoid being lifted by the flow, she simply walks away from danger, 4 feet below the surface. Persistence pays off in the survival game. With the eagle still in pursuit, the chevrotain stays down, saving oxygen by simply resting on the bottom. She can stay down for about 4 minutes before she must go up for air. The eagle's off. But lands on a submerged rock instead of dinner. The Chevrotain has won this round of the long-running battle. It has taken millions of years of evolutionary move and counter-move to produce the complex relationships that are life in the forest. The rainforest is an intricate machine, and the canopy is its powerhouse, turning light into the stuff of life. But if light never makes it to the forest floor, only the creatures of the treetops would flourish. By eating young trees, forest elephants keep clearings open, letting in precious light and creating a mosaic of new and old growth that provides opportunities for a great diversity of plants and animals to thrive. Even in death, the elephant creates one last little clearing. When an elephant dies in the forest, that mountain of flesh simply rots away. Toxic fluids can leach from the decaying carcass, killing the surrounding trees. As long as new generations of elephants continue their benevolent reign here, there will be room for all the other forest creatures to survive. But though much of this great tract of wilderness remains intact, there is a new storm breaking over the rainforest. One that won't just bring down a few old trees, one that could bring down the whole system. Poachers in pursuit of ivory rake whole herds with automatic weapons. The elephant's only defense is to disappear into the enchanted forest they rule so benignly. We still don't fully understand the importance of their role in the forest, and before we do, these giants may be gone. What we do know is that if the elephants disappear for good, many others will follow them into the eternal darkness, leaving this forest and the planet a poorer place.
We hope you have enjoyed this presentation from the National Geographic Video Library.